Hello everyone and welcome back to the Aether Hub. I'm Simon bringing you the story of Magic the Gathering. Today we got a doozy of a discussion topic, and you know it's going to be good when I break out words like doozy. In today's video, we're examining the pre-mending conqueror turned demon turned plane destroyer, Nixilis. We'll be examining his story and how he turned into an unlikely ally in the War of the Spark. Grab your pentagrams guys, this is gonna be a fun one. So, Nixilis, the Planeswalker everybody loves to hate, a former human turned demon. Where have you heard that before? Well, it mirrors another Planeswalker, Tibalt, but, only a devil version, which people just hate to hate. So, think of Nixilis as basically a better version of Tibalt, and in this video we'll prove that right on a couple of different points, mostly on the point that where Tibalt sucks, Nixilis kinda sucks less. That includes being a villain. So first, a quick backstory, which won't be so quick because I love talking about this Planeswalker, guys, I just do. You can also catch more in-depth analysis, which I did a while back on Abi, and you can go ahead and find that linked in the video's description. So Nixilis started life on an unknown plane of perpetual war. Conflicts being nationwide could flare up at any time and the entire populace would eventually be wiped out. Nixilis grew up as a gifted and cruel warlord skilled in combat, magic tactics, you name it. Abi was just good at killing. However, this wouldn't be enough to save him as he was beset on all sides by opposing forces and defeat was assured. As a gambit though, he summoned a powerful demon by sacrificing all of his remaining men, asking this demon for the power to defeat his enemies. That particular being saw Ob's true desires and proceeded to destroy the entire plane. They didn't crack it in half or anything like that, but they did wipe out all living things on the world, save for Nixilis, proving that Abi was selfish at heart, that life itself had real no meaning, that what he wanted most was to be the only one with everything. And walking this barren wasteland, achieving his ultimate goal, his unknowing goal, his spark ignited and it proceeded to do the same thing to countless other planes. Nixilis is a pre-mending planeswalker, meaning that he had untold powers that planeswalkers today couldn't really dream of. This is what allowed him to easily conquer and wipe out planes in his campaigns. Since the mending though, and the nerfing of planeswalkers' power in general, even Abi has seen a stark decrease in power levels, but that history will always be there. As a planeswalker, Abi was always looking for new opportunities to better his killing potential, and this is when he caught wind of an artifact known as the Chain Veil. Yep, the same exact Chain Veil used by Liliana Vess today. Well, apparently Abi dove way too deep into its ancient dark magics, and the Veil turned him into a literal demon. But not like half-demon devil like Tibalt. No, once again, Nixilis is the better version of Tibalt, so he went full-on demon. Now, being a multiversal machine of death and conquering, having the powers of a demon on top sounds pretty badass, right? Well, Abi didn't see it that way. He wanted to free himself from this curse, so he traveled to the plane of Zendikar with plans to rid himself of it. This is where he ran afoul of the plane's original guardian, the planeswalker and lithomancer named Nahiri. Man, a lot of these planeswalkers in War of the Spark are tied to Zendikar and the Eldrazi. Maybe there's something to that, but that's for another video. On to Zendikar, he went to remove the Veil's demon curse, planning on using the rich source of mana on the plane to basically purge himself of its essence. It's that same rich mana that made Zendikar such an easy beacon for the Eldrazi, and he would use something like the Hedron system to channel the flows of mana into himself, but at great cost to the plane itself. Yet, this power actually ended up betraying him, for Abi didn't know how chaotic this plane's mana actually was. It didn't cure his ailment, but actually locked his planeswalker spark. Not destroying it fully, but sort of suppressing it. He was no longer able to planeswalk and thus stuck on Zendikar. As a multiversal conqueror stuck on a single plane, Abi did what comes natural and tried to, well, conquer Zendikar. Though he couldn't planeswalk, he still had the power, magic, and attributes of a strong demon, and he looked to put them to use. But before he could even get his hooves off the ground, he ran into Nahiri, who promptly ended his ambitions. Studying and creating the locking properties of the Hedron network that bound the Eldrazi Titans, Nahiri locked away Abi's power by literally jamming a Hedron into the demon's forehead. This all but neutered Nixilis. Even his demon wings withered and fell off. Many of his more powerful abilities, such as his unique brand of necromancy known as anti-life magic, the magic that causes live flesh to wither and rot and transfer life essence from one being to himself, was all but removed. After this, Nixilis vowed to destroy Zendikar and all who called it home. Abi would get his chance after centuries of studying Nahiri's Hedron system carefully, knowing the magic inside and out, and formulating a plan. As an ageless demon, he had the time, so all he needed was a willing fool to remove the Hedron from his head. Enter Magic's resident fool, Urza. Nah, just kidding. This was Jace Beleren. Jace had traveled to Zendikar on his own mission to save a former ally of his, Garruk Wildspeaker. Savor that, guys, because it's the last time you're going to hear about Garruk in terms of War of the Spark. Sorry, he's not in it. Yes, Garruk was under a murderous trance thanks again to Liliana and the Chainveil, and Jace wanted him cured. Nixilis made contact with Jace and convinced the telepathic planeswalker that the Hedron in his head could bind rage, or something, I don't know, demon mind tricks. Anyway, he antagonizes Jace to fight him. Abi pretends to lose, Jace removes the Hedron and leaves to help Garruk. Thus, the return of the non-planeswalker but still very powerful demon, Nixilis. His wings grow back, but still no spark. That would take the destruction of Zendikar itself, and of course, Nixilis had a plan. This is where we get into the story of Battle for Zendikar. As the major Eldrazi titan Ulamog is rampaging and destroying Zendikar, Nixilis is about to peace out. He certainly doesn't want to be on this plane when it gets devoured, so he locates a plant, I guess, named Colony Heart, which is worshipped by the elves and the former tribe of the Planeswalker and the Gatewatch member Nissa Ravane. This thing, the heart, is known as the heart and soul of Zendikar, a great source of the plane's mana and essence. Thus, Nissa wants to protect it from the Eldrazi. Remember when we talked about world souls giving people sparks? This was discussed in our video on Davriel Kane. This is another example of that. Mana ley lines, souls of planes. This was Abi's plan to steal a spark from Zendikar. If you want more information on World Souls and this transferable Planeswalker Spark, a link to the video on Davriel King can be found in the video's description. Nissa Ravane actually managed to best the demon and defeated Nixilis, using giant elementals of course, and removed Colony Heart from danger, though Abi wasn't about to bow out just yet. Using what he learned about Zendikar's mana ley lines and the Hedron networks, he enacted Plan B, because every demon needs a good Plan B. While hunting down Nissa for some good old-fashioned revenge, Nixilis stumbles upon the Gatewatch in the defense of the Zendikari. He finds the giant Hedron network being used to bind Ulamog and sabotages it for his own usage. The plan works. The sheer amount of mana being channeled through the Hedrons from the core of Zendikar is enough to reignite his spark. This may be a plan similar to what Bolas has for War of the Spark, but more on that later. Anyway, sheer power returns to him, and he lays the smackdown on the Gatewatch. He basically mind punches Jace, destroys the mind of Nissa, and 6 Eldrazi spawns on her, and literally drowns Gideon, bypassing his invulnerable shield. He takes them all to a cave for some good old-fashioned torturing, as a demon does, and it looks like the end of our heroes. Though the last remaining conscious member of the Gatewatch manages to locate her friends, and this was Chandra, and she was able to free them, and honestly this was a pretty cool fight, as the Gatewatch work together to defeat Nixilis, and they do pretty thoroughly. Despite this, Nixilis gets the final laugh, reaching into the bowels of Zendikar and sensing another presence, the sleeping titan Kozilek, and freeing it from its slumber, yet before planeswalking away, he wanted to leave a little psychological trauma in his wake. He told Nissa that if she would have just let him absorb Colony Heart, he would have just left. But out of sheer spite, he ruined their chance to capture Ulamog and free Kozilek just to see Zendikar burn. He also turned to Gideon and offered the Planeswalker a rematch sometimes, admiring his shield and feeling another bout was in order. Oh, he also swore to kill each and every one of the Gatewatch members if he ever returns, so that's fun. And that's pretty much where we stand with Ob Nixilis' story right now. He had a pretty successful run as far as villains go in MTG. Sure, he doesn't have his human form back yet, but he is a Planeswalker again and can go back to conquering worlds. He defeated his enemies and destroyed a world, or at least he thought he did before the Gatewatch saved Zendikar. And honestly, that's a pretty good evil track record for this character. He's an actual threat. This, however, takes us to Ravnica, as Nicol Bolas pulls Ob Nixilis to be a part of his War of the Spark. I'll tell you right now, if Ob Nixilis loses his spark again, he's gonna be one pissed off demon. Despite being an evil guy, he's not down with the plans of Bolas either. Obby wants to prove he's the strongest, the final word, and the greatest of any given plane. Bolas is challenging that. Not to mention the other options are servitude or death, or not becoming a Planeswalker again, so Obby really doesn't want any one of those choices. Obby will be an anti-hero in War of the Spark. How do we know this? Well, in a story development interview with the writer of the War of the Spark novel, Let Loose Ob Nixilis is, quote, working with Karn and Dack Fayden. Dack Fayden, funnily enough, doesn't have a stained glass window for the War of the Spark, and he's actually killed in the trailer, so that's kind of funny. So yeah, if Karn's working with him, then I stand to say that Ob Nixilis is probably doing something good against Bolas. Now that being said, Ob Nixilis will have his fair share of complex interactions while on Ravnica. Though he is working with those tied to the Gatewatch, he isn't working with the direct members for obvious reasons. Smacking them all down, drowning one, and trying to destroy Zendikar probably has them feeling a little uneasy about working with this Demon Planeswalker. Not to mention Liliana Vess will be involved, and she's the current owner of the Chain Veil, the original thing that cursed Ob Nixilis to his demon form. Maybe he'll have a run-in again with the artifact, or its power somehow changes him back to a human form. Maybe he'll be able to work with Liliana to tap into its powers and defeat Bolas, or maybe Liliana will become a demon herself. All possibilities in this story arc. Let's not forget that Ob Nixilis could also run into Nahiri. Much less of a relationship there, but it still remembers the Hedron being plunged into his forehead from this core Planeswalker, so a little animosity there, I'm sure. And that, you guys, is going to wrap up this lore discussion. Let me know your thoughts of this Demon Planeswalker, Ob Nixilis, and what purpose he'll have in the War of the Spark in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this discussion video, let us know by leaving a like, sub, hit the bell so you never miss a new video, and share this video on Reddit. In sharing this video on Reddit, you supported the channel in more ways than you could ever know, so it's super impactful and we really, really appreciate it. You can also join the Vorthos army on Patreon and get Aether bundles, signed themed cards each month, but go ahead and sign up quick because they're limited. You can find that link in the description below. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time here on the Aether Hub. See ya!